Well, today I'm going to do a wee bit more experimenting, testing with round ball in the Fowler. It's a 20 gauge Kibler Fowler. Today, okay, like I said, I'm 81 years old, and I've watched trends come and go, and everything seems to go in cycles. And 50 years ago, about everybody that I knew that shot flintlock rifles, muzzleloading rifles, say 50 caliber, which is what I've mostly shot. Just about everybody used somewhere around 120 grains. That was just considered to be a normal load. And people that manufacturers that put out muzzleloaders, made muzzleloaders, that was pretty much their recommended load. For instance, Mowry, who had the 1837 Allen Thurber Buffalo rifle, 50 caliber, they strongly recommended 120 grains. Just about everybody did. And today, there seems to be this overwhelming desire or whatever from among just about everybody shoot super light loads. I mean light loads. For hunting, they're using light target loads. Whether that be in Fowler shooting shot or round ball or rifles or whatever. It's just the rage today is to see who can shoot the lightest loads, I reckon. That's sort of what it seems like anyway. But when it comes to Fowlers, which is what we're experimenting with now, I get all kinds of comments, Oh, they're laughing, carrying on. Boy, you're using such heavy loads and all that kind of stuff, and you should never use more than 70 grains in a Fowler or 60 grains as much as anybody ever needs, and I shoot 50 grains and kill elephants, that sort of a type comment, But a couple of things. Another rage or tendency or whatever you want to call it, any way you want to put it, today is to shoot patched round ball in Fowlers, in flintlock, in smoothbore. And to the best of my knowledge, and everybody that I've ever seen, and I've certainly never found it, and other people that's got a whole lot more knowledge of historical fact than I do, say they've never seen any literature or anything else that verifies or authenticates the fact that anybody ever used patched round ball in a smoothbore. With the advent of the rifle, when the Swiss and the German migrated into the country, and primarily in central part of Pennsylvania and what have you, they brought the rifle culture with them. But virtually all the colonies and all North America and virtually most of the world was smoothbore. But the Germans and the Swiss, they've been experimenting and had some pretty good rifles. And yes, rifles gave you the best accuracy. It does. Over a smoothbore. And of course, if you're using a rifle, you pretty much have to use a patch, and we'll get into all that sometime or another. It's why you have to have a patch with a rifle. But as the rifle culture spread through Pennsylvania and down the Great Wagon Road across Virginia and into North Carolina, it brought a fair amount of rifle culture with it. And where a rifle Well, rifle culture infiltrated, you might as well say, smoothbore territory. Did some people adopt the rifleman's habit of putting a patch around the ball? Probably. Probably did. But there's no verification, authentication of that. I mean, but did it happen? Probably. But was it widespread? Probably not. So most people that use smoothbore, back then, whether it be a military musket or civilian fowler, shot bare ball. Now, I saw a fellow made a post on Facebook on one of the muzzleloader pages that he had heard over and over and over about would a patched round ball, bare ball shoot as good as a patched round ball or whatever. And so he decided he was going to decide for himself whether it would or not. So he got out and he shot 4 or 5 times with a bare ball and a patched round ball at whatever distance, I think maybe 50 yards, whatever it was. Don't exactly remember the distance, but on his target, that patched round ball certainly shot better than the bare ball. And from that one experiment, he concluded, that yes, sir, patched round ball will definitely outshoot a bare ball. And right now, I'm going to recommend that you go to YouTube and you go to Duelist, D-U-E-L-I-S, to Duelist 1964. Duelist 1964. Mike Bellevue, and subscribe to his channel. And don't be lazy. Thumb back through his videos for the past umpteen years. Spread out over a period of time, through years, he's got probably some of the most thorough, authenticated, verified results from shooting smoothbores and rifles of anybody, black powder, if anybody out there. I mean, and he didn't just take, like I'm going to tell you, don't just take my word or anybody else's word for it. So many things that you see in the black powder realm that's generally taken to be the absolute truth, if you'll do your own experiment, and you'll find that that's not necessarily true. I have found that there's a ton of old wives' tales wound up in the black powder world. And every gun is a law unto itself. So no matter what anybody says, including me, what anybody says, your gun is a law unto itself. Until you experiment with your gun, you don't know what it's going to do. So my recommendation is, no matter what me or anybody else says, do your own experiment in your own gun. But the fact that Mike brings out in some of his videos, and I will say this, the videos where Mike, he finally succumbed to the idea that patch round ball in a smoothbore is just going to be the nuts, it's going to be the berries. So he did an extensive test. Fireball, patched round ball. And he was fully expecting, and he tells you that he was fully expecting that patched ball to outshoot the bare ball. But to his amazement, wasn't true. It didn't happen that way. And his final conclusion was, going to stick with the bare ball because it's more traditional, it's more period correct, and it's easier, and it shoots just as accurate. Now, among those conclusions that he come up with, that if you're going to shoot light loads, and if you're going to shoot light loads, You pretty much have to use a patch to get any kind of accuracy whatsoever. Now, he did a lot more testing than I'm going to do, but some of the testing I'm going to do today is going to see how Mike's findings hold up in my gun, okay? But he found that if you're going to use light loads, meaning anything in the 80 grains and less, you pretty much have to use a patch, or you're not going to get any decent accuracy at all out of a smoothbore. So, and if you're going to use 3F powder in a smoothbore, 20 gauge. He was critiquing particularly of 20 and 12 gauges at the time, but that if you're going, and he got a full video on that and explained it, and most people are like me, 3F is good for everything. And I pretty much was for, oh my God, 30 years, I probably used more 3F than anything. And of course, I primarily shot 50 calibers and everything, and I find that 3F did really good in my flintlock rifles, but I didn't do all the extensive testing that Mike did, and up to about 80 grains of 3F, the 3F outperforms the 2F, higher velocity and everything else. But once you pass 80 grains, that's not true. The slower burning 2F, right around 80 grains, 60, 70, 50, wherever you want to start, the 3F is outperforming or outshooting out velocity-wise 2F up to about 80 grains. But once you pass 80 grains, the tables begin to switch. And as you go up from 80, 90, 100, 110, 120 grains, whatever you're going up. In 3F, you go up say 10 grains in powder, you're getting very few feet per second increase. So once you pass 80 grains, you just keep pouring an enormous amount of powder in there, and you're getting almost no increase in velocity, but you're getting a heck of an increase in recoil. So once you pass that 80 grains, 2F comes in, and when you go to Mike's channel and you see the results that he put out from the test, honest to John test, 2F absolutely outperforms 3F above 80 grains. Now, then he takes it and he goes back and he goes, you go to the military muskets back at the time, whether it be French or whether it be English or whatever they are. And there's a lot of literature on that today that you can go look for yourself. Why did they use, in the 1700s, the British use about 150 grain loads in their muskets? And the French pretty much used 130 grains, 25, 30 grains. Well, the French had better powder, for one thing, so they could use a little less. But they were still using right around 130 grains. And the English using somewhere around 150, 160 grains. And then in the 1800s, come along, England, or Europe per se, was making some of the best powder, and according to Mike in his research, the best powder it's ever been. So the military manuals went from, the British manual went from 150 grains to 123 grains. And as Mike said, that's the best powder it's ever been. The powder we get today probably is not the equivalent of what they had then. I didn't research it. I relied upon his research. However, the fact of the matter is they used heavy charges. what most people today call really heavy charges. Most people today wanting to shoot 60 and they think 70 grains is a heavy load. Then I get tons of people commenting on that. So if light loads worked in a bare ball musket, a bare ball Fowler, why in heaven's name did the military and virtually everybody back there that we can find what loads they did use, but the military, it's there. I mean, it's in their manuals. Why did they use such heavy loads if light loads worked? Well, the military had to have a couple of three things. First, they had to have accuracy good enough to hit the intended target. And contrary to a lot of belief, if people think you can't hit anything with a musket, a bare ball musket, that's certainly not true. The military manual expected their soldiers to hit a man-sized target, to take the enemy out, an enemy soldier out, 100% of the time at 80 yards. At 80 yards. Expected you to be able to hit your man-sized target 100% of the time at 80 yards with a smoothbore musket. And at 150 yards, they expected 50% success. If you're going to take out your target 50% of the time at 150 yards. So that's not necessarily bench rest rifle accuracy, but that's pretty doggone good accuracy. Very good accuracy when you consider using a smoothbore musket. So they had to have the accuracy. They had to have the range, and they had to have the power. Accuracy, range, and power. They had to have those three things. So if light loads would develop that, would give them the accuracy, the range, and the power, that he used it. It wasn't their job to waste ammo, to waste powder, and to waste lead, to waste any of that stuff. So if a 60, 70 grain load, 80, whatever would work, they'd have used it. So through extensive testing, they found out in order to get the suitable accuracy, they had to use bigger charges of powder. From 100, the lightest load that the military British used in their musket was 123 grains. That was a light load. I mean, that was the load. That was the load. And that was with their later powders. And in the 1700s, they was using about 20, 30 grains more. Why? Why? Everybody today seems to think when you drop, like when I go to load one here in a little while, and I take that round ball and I just drop it down that muzzle, it just goes rattling down the barrel. And it does just rattle down the barrel. And they think when it comes out, it's rattling down the barrel and going that way and the other way, and all that. That ain't true. They think in order to keep that ball centered in that barrel, they got to put a tight patch around it. Well, by putting a tight patch around a ball in a smoothbore, you pretty much are getting rid of the advantage of having a smoothbore in the first place. That's ease of loading and rapidity of loading. You can load it quicker and easier. So you're getting rid of why the smoothbore works better, why the military chose the smoothbore over rifle at that time. Now, you want to keep that ball centered in that barrel. So that's what the patch does. But they found out if you use enough powder to create enough gases in there, you gotta have a certain amount of gas. Those gases form, let's say, sort of like a plasma. Anyway, that round ball is a bit smaller than that barrel. And have you ever seen the experiment where you take like a vacuum hose and you point it up in the air and you put a ball on top of it? The ball just sits there spinning around. You can actually move that thing around a little bit and everything. That ball just stays right there. Why does that ball stay right there? Think about that a while. Well, that's sort of what's happening in that, not exactly, but same principles in that smoothbore. You've got gases not only are propelling the ball out, they are escaping around that ball. That ball is a bit smaller than that bore, and the gases escape around that bore. They do it evenly. Those gases center that ball in that barrel. And when you got enough gases, center that ball in that barrel, you're getting virtually the same accuracy that you're going to get out of a patch ball. Mike did his experimentation, and that's exactly what he come up with, and that's what I'm doing right now. That's what he come up with, and I found everything that Mike Bellevue has said so far has been, my experimentation has verified his experiment, or corroborated his experiment. I've seen a lot of people put up stuff that they've experimented, and I'm just not even going to. It just doesn't even make good enough sense. Then the results are certainly not good enough. So what I'm going, in other words, those light loads will not generate sufficient gases to center that ball in that bore. They just won't do it. There's not enough powder there to create enough gases to do what needs to be done. So if you're not going to use enough powder to create this gas seal that your ball is riding down that barrel, it's riding down that barrel on gases. And these gases are pretty much centering that ball. So if you're not going to use enough powder to create enough gases to center that ball, in order to get any kind of accuracy, then you're going to have to do something else. You're going to have to center that ball. You're going to do that with a patch. And that's what most people are doing. So they're comparing, like this fellow, he compared his results shooting a patched round ball and a bare ball using 60 grains. That's all he used. Didn't experiment with anything else. He simply used 60 grains. And the fact of the matter is, if you're going to use these light charges, especially down there in that 50, 60 grain range, if you're going to use these light charges, you absolutely have to use a patch round ball in order to get almost any kind of accuracy out of most guns. I'm sure there's guns out there that will give you reasonable accuracy shooting some of these light loads. I got my fingers crossed that this Fowler of mine will do that, but we're going to find that out here in a little while, because what I'm going to do today is I'm going to shoot some lighter loads. And in 3F, using 3F Swiss, I'm going to shoot 70 grains. A lot of people consider that heavy load, but it's not. That's a light load. And 70 grains, again, according to Mike Bellevue and on his chart, 70 grains gives 70 grains of 3F gives low recoil. Well, if you watched any of my other videos where I'm shooting heavy loads in this super light Fowler, it kicks you in the face pretty good. I mean, it's got a fair amount of recoil. It's got heavy recoil. Mike actually breaks recoil down into low, moderate, heavy, and vicious. With 110 grain loads in my little light Fowler, I don't know how Mike would rate it, but I pretty much rate it vicious. It's right, it's up there. So he rates 70 grains as low, but as low recoil, but he's using heavier muskets, military type muskets, or heavier guns. And this Kibler Fowler is a very light, and it's a wonderful gun. It's light, it's a hunting gun, something that you carry all day and shoot now and then. Not a target gun that you're going to sit down here and shoot 100 times, you know. I mean, it's not what it is. It's a hunting gun. It's not a military gun. It's a civilian Fowler, something that you can carry around, have with you all day, not wear you out. When the time comes to take a shot, it'll perform, do the job. And you're not going to shoot enough to beat your jaw up like I do when I come out here and I shoot 15 or 20 times. So anyway, I'm going to use 70 grains of 3F and 80 grains of 2F. Bare ball, and just see what kind of accuracy. Well, it'd be interesting to see what I come up with. Can I even keep it on paper? I don't know, because I don't have a huge target out there. It's only about 1 foot wide, you know, maybe 1.5 feet tall. So I don't know. We're going to find out, but I'm going to try some light loads in my Fowler, no patches, and see what happens. In other words, I'm reading on Mike's research and what he's done, taking advantage of his research and what he's published. I'm going to see what it does in my gun, which is what I recommend that you do, everybody do, to see what your gun will do the best in. But whatever you do, go to Duelist, 1964, Mike Bellevue's channel, and thumb back through. You go back 7 or 8, 9, 10, 12 years. Go back and look at what he's got. Look at every video that in any way, shape, form, or fashion has anything to do with a muzzleloader. And look at him, and he's got a wealth of information on there. You can save yourself a lot of time and a lot of confusion, if you will. So I'm going to get started here and get my bench set up. And before I got me a target out there, get my bench set up, get my gun set up on my bench, get it loaded, and start experimenting. Okay. Let me start to get my bench set up here. Get my wrist adjusted. Wrist adjusted right for. It's going to be 70 grains of 3F Swiss. Okay. $70 grains. The 3F Swiss. Now, I'm talking about the gases sealing off your bore. That ball riding down the barrel on the gases. Well, I know with 60 grains, that's what I've got here, that there's, or 70 grains, it's probably not going to be enough gases for that anyway, but regardless of what the amount of powder that I'm using, if you, probably the best thing, if you're just going to load up and shoot immediately, would be to put your powder in and put your bar ball right down on the powder. Well, if you're going to shoot immediately, which I'm going to today, but normally, like if I was going to load up to go hunting, I ain't going to do that. So I put just enough toe in there to hold that powder back, to seal that powder off. In other words, if I drop that round ball down there, and it's just on the powder. Of course, it's smaller than the bore. During the course of just walking around or doing anything, it's smaller than the bore, so that powder is going to work its way around that ball and up to whatever you hold that ball in with. If you're holding it with a piece of paper or wad of tow, so the certain amount of powder is going to go around the ball and take up that space not only around but in front of the ball. So you're losing some powder behind it. So in order to not do that, I'm just putting a very little bit of tow over that powder, just enough to keep the powder in place and yet let enough gases get by to do the job. So it's going to fall right down. Down it went. Now I'm going to put enough tow over the top of it, of the whole shooting match, to where if I'm out hunting, it's going to hold that charge and that ball in place. So I'm putting a pretty good wad of tow over the top of the ball. Prime with the same powder that you charge with. Now, okay, put her on the bench. Let's see if it's even going to stay on the paper. We're on the same farm even. Let's just see. Where do you reckon that one went? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Oh my. That's 70 grains. The 3F, not even on the paper. I have no earthly idea where it went. At 40 yards, I'm shooting at a target that wide, yay tall. Pretty much man, chest, torso size. Never even touched the paper. So let's get loaded up and try again. I do have to say, that was a little bit surprising. I thought I'd at least be on paper. This flint that I'm using is the same flint that I was using in the last video that just got clacked with. Wouldn't even give me a flash in the pan. Of course, I went in and I sharpened it, and I get the good out of a flint. Shot number 2. Well, that one's at least on the paper. Well, everything that I've watched from Mike Bellevue, I have to agree with. That is, till now. I have to disagree with his assessment of the recoil. He listed that as low recoil. And I'm sure in his heavier muskets it was lower recoil. But in this light Fowler, this light Kibler Fowler, I ain't no way in the world I'd call that low recoil. It's still kicking. Not like that 110 grain load, but it still kicks. A wee bit of toe. $70 grains of 3F. I believe I'll go ahead and prime this thing. Don't believe it's likely to shoot if I don't prime it. Okie doke. As you see, now I'm going to go to 80 grains 2F. 80 grains of 2F. The second shot was 80 grains of 2F. Oop. Ah. And I'll go work on this one some more. I'll get some more shots out of it. Okay. New flint. A new flint can make a difference, huh? Last shot. Probably. All right. Here we go. Go up there and get the target and bring it in. Well, I said that was going to be my last one. But I lied. I was out of round ball. Sure enough. And I went back to the house and got me another bag of little 610 round ball. And we'll shoot at least one more. One more. That looked promising. What I'm trying to do is develop a plinking load. I mean, for hunting, I will use that jaw pounding 110 grain load because it shoots really well. But just for plinking around and what have you, with a little less accuracy and a little less velocity, don't matter all that much. You can save on the amount of powder and the amount of whacking that your jaw gets. That would be good. See what this does. Okay. Okay, let me know where those holes are. Okay. All right. This will probably be the last shot for today. I've said that before, though. Well, let's just see where it went. Aha! Well, that's plenty good enough for plinking low. That's really good. He's shooting low, but pretty doggone tight. That is an amazing difference between 70 grains of 3F and 80 grains of 2F. Of course, the other day, when I did my first test, 80, I started out with 80 grains of 2F. That was the first shot I ever fired up. And 80 grains of 2F, a couple of weeks ago, or whenever it was when I did that, shot just exactly like you're shooting right now. Not bad. 80 grains, 90 grains, shot good. 110 grains, shot real good. So there is enough of whatever, enough gases sealing off or centering that ball going down the barrel with that 2F. Probably just on the verge. I'm not going to shoot any more today, but I'm going to, one time I'll come out here and I'll shoot less than 80 grains and see if how far that group opens up. But with 80 grains, it's shooting doggone good. For a bare ball flintlock. There's no sights. I mean, you're just looking out there and pulling the trigger, but with 2F from 80, 90, up to 110, Betty, she's shooting good. And 110, it definitely shoots right on for it. I mean, it's good. It's real good. Shoots just a little bit left with all of them, but I'm not worried about that. I'm not going to try to bend the barrel or anything to get rid of that tiny little bit of shooting to the left. I can put up with that. I can hold just a hair to the right what I want to hit. But I'm up 40 yards. You don't have to worry about anything. Just shoot. Out at about 60 yards, you want to start holding a little bit left. Oh my. I am pleased. I really am. I'm pleased. But the results with the 70 grains of 3F was about what I was expecting. It's bad. It's bad. And 80 grains of 2F matched what I shot a couple of weeks ago. So 80 grains of 2F is enough gases to center that ball or whatever. This gun just plain likes the 80 grains of 2F. It don't like 70 grains of 3F at all. I'm pleased. Actually, I'm very pleased. So I know I've got an 80 grain load that I can walk around, plink around with a little bit and enjoy that part. Where I can load it plumb up to the 110s. It's I'm pleased. And that follows right along with Mike Bellevue's findings also. Lordy mercy. Go in the house, clean this thing up, and study my results a little bit, ponder on that a little bit. But I'm going to go up there and get the target. Okay, let's see if we can make a little sense out of that. With 70 grains of 3F, the first shot was about right in here. Okay, and then it was the first shot. Second shot was about here, and the third shot here. So first, second, and third. It's at 40 yards. That's the least amount of powder, the lightest charge ever shot in my Kibler powder, and that's by far and away the worst shot group, period. So that was 3F powder. So I went to 2F. And with 2F powder, it's this group that you see here. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a 4-shot group. 1, 2, 3, 4. At 40 yards, I shot 80 grains. That's the same 80 grain load, 2F. That's the very first shot ever fired through the Kibler. I just figured, just picked it out. Figured that might be the least amount of powder that would shoot pretty good, and sure enough, it does. It still does. There's enough gases generated with this load, no doubt, to center that ball in the barrel as it comes down. The 3F is just not. It's just not. Yeah, which is typical. I mean, that's what you really expect. But with 80 grains, I'm holding here. 6 o'clock hold, and it's shooting a little bit low. It's a little bit low. But with 110 grains that I shot a couple of weeks ago, again, you're holding here, but instead of printing down here, you got four shots. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I threw that one and I knew it. But anyway, even counting that one, it's still a good group. But I called that a flyer, and sure enough it was. But otherwise, there's 4 right here. That's with 110 grains. It's shooting super accurate. It is shooting a little bit left. I could try to bend that barrel. Well, I could bend the barrel to get it to come back over here, but for that little bit, I will not even attempt to change anything. Then this is a 110 grain load at 60 yards. And if you'll watch the last video where I did this test, it was terrible conditions. The wind was howling, sun shining on the barrel and everything. I had to pull my wrist and everything way back inside the building here, and I could not get comfortable. I couldn't get up on my bench rest like it was designed to be shot from. Terribly uncomfortable position, terribly uncomfortable. And I shot this 5-shot group at 60 yards, still holding here. So that's still. And I determined then, I said, I need to shoot this group again under normal conditions. But then again, I got to looking at really a bare round ball at 60 yards. Goodness gracious. That ain't bad. That ain't bad at all. But I do believe I can beat it. I really do. I believe I can beat that. But anyway, that's the results. That's 110 grains at 60 yards. 110 grains at 40 yards. and 70 grains at 40 yards and 80 grains. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's pretty doggone good. From 80 grains to 110 grains, she shoots accurate. That's with 2F. I got a whole lot more experimenting to do, but right now that's done pretty good. And it's 80 grain don't kick in your face anywhere near what that 110 grain does. That 110 grainer is a face kicker. Shoulder sore. My shoulder has never been sore. My shoulder has never realized that I ever even pulled a trigger on that fowler. Never. I don't care how many of what I was shooting, but my jaw surely gets sore because this thing, instead of kicking back into your shoulder, it kicks up into my jaw. I wish it kicked my shoulder. Oh, but right on the point of my jawbone, right there, it's sore as a bull because she kicks it pretty good. But I was shooting today with those loads, and my jaw had not healed up from shooting the heavy loads. It was sore when I got started. So if it had not been sore, if it was completely healed up, it's possible that you can shoot those loads all day long. I don't know. But I was already sore when I got started, and the soreness has elevated a notch or two. Anyway, I'm going to call it a day. Talk soon.